Hey, welcome into the Gridiron Show. It is day 4 of Radio
I like
Row.
that you had to think about it. Because I did that yesterday. I said it was day 2. That's wrong.
It's absolutely mental in here. NFL Honors is tonight. This may or may be out before or after it. We're going to be on the red carpet. Do follow along. Delighted to be joined by a guy from the Up and Adams show, but also as well KC Sports Network. We're going to talk about the Chiefs here. Matt Hamilton. Matt, welcome on. It's great to finally see you in person.
Yeah, it's great to meet you in person. I appreciate you guys having me on. You do such an awesome job. It's great to sit here with you. And that story, getting to hear that story about how Kay just refers to you as Tormund, and then witnessing it yesterday firsthand.
This is Matt. I said to Matt and then the other producer, I said, like, I've interviewed Kay 3 or 4 times, I think. And first time when you guys came over to London and did those shows out there. And she made a joke, and that was when Game of Thrones was massive, and she made a joke about me looking like Tormund. The thing is, she follows me on Twitter, she interacts with me occasionally, and yet I'm convinced she doesn't know my name, right? And so I say this to Matt yesterday, and I say, I don't think she knows my name, I think she just knows me as Tormund. The following day, bump into Matt, chatting to him, and Kay just walks over and goes, Tormund! Tormund!
That was loud on the headphones, folks, I'm not going to lie. It's funny, because like, Matt, I'm not blowing your horn here, but you are very, very busy at the minute. You're going doing loads of stuff down there, so I appreciate you sort of jumping in here. Let's jump on and talk some Chiefs. I've asked everybody this, but from a guy that's obviously watched tape, talked about it all year, how concerned are you about Patrick Mahomes and his fitness, or do you think he's just immortal and some sort of super freak and he'll be fine on Sunday?
I mean, I think with what we saw in the AFC Championship game, he can make more than enough plays still. Obviously, the ankle's still bothering him. I expect it to still be bothering him a little bit, but he's had 2 weeks to rest now. So I think we're going to see an even better version of him than we saw in that AFC Championship game. The bigger concern to me is what the status of that receiving core is going to be for the Chiefs, right? Because they were down 4 of their 5 starting wide receivers. Hardman is already ruled out. Looks like they're getting Justin Watson back. It looks like Juju and Kadarius Toney are going to play, but that's crucial because as great and dominant as Travis Kelce is, and as much as he can take over a game, they're going to need some of these other guys to be healthy and making plays.
Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of people are talking about, oh well, Jalen Hurts has got all these weapons. Yeah. But the reality for the Chiefs is, okay, they've lost Tyreek Hill, but when you've got MVS, when you've got, albeit he hasn't had a crazy season, Sky Moore, they have got guys that can do stuff in games and they can make a big difference for Mahomes if he is 60 or 70% and needs to make that play. And as you said, once you have Kelce, it's just a game changer.
And that was the thing going into this season. That was my case for. I actually had to make the case when I was still with Good Morning Football at the time. Yeah. We were doing our MVP picks, and I made my case for Patrick Mahomes, and I said, even though he loses Tyreek Hill, I think he has the deepest receiving core in the entire league, and we've seen it come into play this year. They go 7 deep in that receiver room, and guys that can all contribute and make plays. And not to mention the tight ends. Noah Gray has been a factor all year. You can't sleep on him. They love to go 13 personnel and spread you out. They just create so many headaches for defenses. It's been fun to watch.
Love it. Look, I know that everyone is focused on Mahomes and maybe what the receiving core and everything else. I'm intrigued as to what you think those outside guys are going to do, what you think those tackles are going to do, because it feels like not just in terms of the pass rush for the Eagles, which we know is sensational, but it's a weird physical matchup as well, because those 2 tackles are big guys, and Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, both pretty undersized. They're going to have to get low. They're going to that terrifies me, and I'm not a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, that's a great point because when you look at what they did against the Bengals, they handled Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, who are 2 excellent pass rushers. But you're right, those Eagles guys are built differently, whereas Hubbard and Hendrickson, especially Hubbard, is relies a little bit more on his strength. Reddick has just that blinding speed off the edge, and nobody's really been able to corral him all year. So that's definitely going to be something to watch. And while we've seen that offensive line for the Chiefs perform really well at times, they've been a little streaky this year. They've had some rough performances. They've had some incredible performances. So that's going to be a massive factor in this game, especially with Mahomes' mobility limited a little bit.
Do we think we see Andy Reid with a couple of weeks to prepare, with a chance to watch some, 1920s Division III college film? We'll see some, yeah. I mean, we were there in Miami when he ran that kind of wings play that was just straight out of some college playbook from literally the 1930s. Like, come on, it's something he does.
I'm gonna call my shot right now. This is what I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see Jerick McKinnon throw a pass. They've set it up this year. They've gone with that little wing T type of formation, that full house backfield with Jerick McKinnon at quarterback. Remember, he was a quarterback in college. He ran the option. He was a very accomplished quarterback in college. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him. He didn't throw a ton there. It was an option offense, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jerick McKinnon throw a pass.
Immediately going on and looking at some prop bets for that. that is, you can get to throw a pass. You can get good odds on it, and yeah, I'm on it. I'm ready.
Giving this boy a shout on Monday morning and up and out, sure that happens. It's funny because I haven't talked. We've been talking about the Chiefs all week to different people. I've just got this really, really strange feeling that this is going to come down to a special teams play, and when you've got Harrison Butker there, and like as he said to me on Monday night, he practices or he goes for every kick as if it is the Super Bowl, and that's his mindset. He's really glued in, and he's a great guy as well. Could we see? Imagine a Super Bowl where it goes to a last-second field goal. It hasn't been like that in how long? How long?
Hold on, now that's now testing.
Vinatieri comes to mind. That's the one that jumps out.
What
the
a way
most,
for Butker if it did write himself in history in that franchise. And the guy that's been so consistent since Mahomes has been there as well. He's been there. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
That would be, and we've seen the Chiefs special teams come up with some big plays all year. I mean, that what gets lost in the controversy with the penalty, the late hit on Mahomes, that return from Sky Moore before that got the Chiefs into range where they were able to get for that into place for that last second field goal. That was such a big moment in that game. So we've seen it come into play, and really when you look at the Chiefs, the couple of games that the Chiefs have lost this year, it's come down to special teams as well. Remember the Colts game?
Yeah.
They had a rough day. Butker was out at that time. Butker was hurt, and they couldn't convert in the kicking game.
Look, I have been sitting here all week long, and I'm sorry, Matt, I'm going to admit to you, I pick the Eagles basically every day. But every year we find ourselves flip-flopping. And we just sat here chatting with Cynthia Freeland, talking through the kind of keys to the game with her. It's the first time I felt myself wavering just a little bit. Like, where's your kind of confidence level right now and hearing from? Because it does feel like most people speak to. I think we've had about maybe 90% Eagles so far.
It does seem that way, and when you look at the Eagles roster, they're just so stacked top to bottom, and that's the luxury of how you can build your roster when you have a quarterback on his rookie deal. And the Chiefs have had to kind of once they paid Mahomes all that money, they had to reshape this roster. That's why the Tyreek Hill trade, what Brett Veach was able to make out of that to rebuild the overall depth of this roster is just so impressive. But you have to give the Eagles an edge in overall talent, but Patrick Mahomes is there, and that can't be overstated. The biggest thing that I'm going to be looking at this game, the biggest factor, I think, the Eagles, obviously, their bread and butter is that run game, that big monster offensive line and their ability to pound the football. If the Chiefs are able to take that away a little bit, make that tough. One thing that hasn't really been talked about, since he's come back from that shoulder injury, Jalen Hurts hasn't looked quite right. He hasn't needed to do a lot because they've been able to blow everybody out because they've outclassed everybody else in the NFC talent-wise.
0 passing touchdowns in the NFC Championship game as well.
Yeah. So, and again, he didn't need to throw any.
Yeah, exactly.
But
can we not talk about that game anymore? Come on.
Oh, boy.
The big Niners fan here. And it's funny because we always have this game now. It's like, well, how long is it going to be till Will talks about the Niners or makes reference to it? So it happened. I'm happy it happened here.
There we go. But, yeah, when you look at it, obviously he didn't have to do a lot. They didn't have to put it on his shoulder. But I think against the Chiefs, he's going to be put in that position. When you look at some of the throws in that Niners game, he wasn't sharp. He missed a few throws that he was making consistently when he was playing at that MVP level early in the season. And even some of the throws he completed, the ball placement was just a little bit off. So that's something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on.
At Matt Hamilton 25, obviously I know you're with FanDuel TV with Kay Adams up in Adams. You're also the host of The Breakdown on the KC Sports Network. BJ Cassell, big guy there. Look, I know you've talked about the potential surprise play. Any other bold prediction just to end this out here, maybe, before we go? And I tell you what, Matt, I think the Chiefs are winning on Sunday.
Yeah,
I really do. I just think
that's not what you've said to anyone else who's come here. All of a sudden, your good buddy Matt comes over.
I'm nearly certain. I'm nearly certain I said it on a different. No, it's funny because I just feel like you just can't bet against Mahomes. For me, Jalen Hurts is the MVP.
Yeah,
and we'll find out, time permitting on this podcast what happens, but. I know it's going to be most likely be Mahomes, but give us some sort of crazy bold prediction that we can all laugh at together on Twitter on Monday.
Oh, man, a crazy bold prediction. I mean, is it going to be crazier than Jerick McKinnon throwing a touchdown pass? I feel like I took my shot with that one. But I agree. I think the Chiefs are going to find a way to get this done. I really do. As talented as the Eagles are, As he said, it's hard to bet against Mahomes, and I do have enough questions about Jalen Hurts that they are able to make the Eagles have to throw. That's going to be the key. And it's a way easier, obviously, said than done. Not many teams have been able to do it, but if they can get there, I think that there is a path for the Chiefs to pull this one off. And I always feel like whenever it's that skewed one way, 80, 90% of people leaning into one team, I feel like it always ends up swinging back the other way.
We'll see what happens. Obviously, Chad Henne and Gardner Minshew are there as well, just in case. But Matt, look, just all the very, very best this weekend, but all the best for the future. And thank you very much for your support, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. This is awesome.
Here's something like right behind you. You've got Tony Dorsett followed by Earl Campbell, like two of the greatest, man.
We've got the me man Steve on here.
This is awesome.
This is So we're on Radio Row with Steve Wyche, and as he's saying, we still feel like this, Steve, right? We feel like we're here almost crashing someone else's party. Like, as much as, not in a way of like, we know the sport is getting big in Britain and we absolutely love it over there. But just when you have all the players who played with each other years ago, who have won Super Bowls together, and they're all meeting up and hanging out and like high-fiving and stuff, I'm just like, I feel like a fanboy just sat here going, oh my God, that's such a cool moment. It's amazing how much stuff.
But we're all
fanboys.
I mean, I've been doing this 30-some years, and I pointed out Tony Dorsett and Earl Campbell. Like, I've interviewed these guys. I deal with them at the Hall of Fame. But I think back to when I was younger, watching them play and how spectacular they were. And that's what's great about being at an event like this, is because you see them, it hits memories. It makes you think about things like, wow, I haven't really thought about that. Then I see Earl Campbell, and I'm thinking about he was one of the most powerful, spectacular running backs I've ever seen, and he's 10 feet away from me. There's a billion people who would kill for that, and we're here, and I'm here with you talking about it.
I love the guys who just love telling stories as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, it's a chance for them to relive their glory years in the best way possible. And we had Aaron Taylor on yesterday. Obviously, great college football guy.
Yeah.
Really knows his stuff. Played in the league, but everyone always asks him about what it was like to kind of block for Favre. But I was like, well, what's it like to face Reggie White in practice? And he gave us the best Reggie White story about how he blocked him up. Reggie tripped over the defensive tackle's feet, went down, and the whole line were just like, oh, you're going to let Aaron do you like that? Like, absolutely went after him. And he was like, Reggie just did up his chin strap, tightened his pads, kicked his foot out, right? And just plowed through him on the next play. It's like, I've never felt power like it. And just stuff like that is the best.
Country strong, I believe they call it.
Country strong.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Country strong.
Steve Wyche, as the kind of chief national reporter for NFL Network, what's your week like when everyone's obviously so heavily focused on the game, but at the same time we've got Aaron Rodgers talking about sitting in a dark room for 4 days to contemplate life, and
I wish I could do that, by the way.
That's all of us next week.
Yeah, literally. That might be me all day Saturday, just recovering ahead of the game, just trying to get through it. What's it like having to juggle all that stuff while having all this going on around you as well?
It's what we do, right? It's like being, a financial broker on Wall Street. When you're going in with this, the markets crash, you've got something else going on to change the news. You have to be able to juggle, and that's why doing what we do is great, because every day is different, right? It never gets mundane. So like this week, while I'm here for the game, tonight I'm also doing work with the Hall of Famers at Honors, right? We're going to announce the class of 2023. This is a huge deal. It's going to change lives for a lot of people, and so that's a cool thing for me, right, to be able to do that. And then on Saturday, we're going to be recording a special thing that's going to air on NFL Network and NFL Plus, our streaming site, with these guys as they get, measured for their jackets and get their bust, the initial stages for that. So these are all the different things that are going on here. Like I said, honors tonight, MVP, Rookie of the Year, things like that. But there's also other teams. The Derek Carr situation with the Raiders, right? He's in New Orleans, talking to them about possibly playing for them. We've got to have our ears to the ground on that. But that's why what we do is the best. We're not doing anything that's saving anybody's life, right? But we're doing things to inform, educate, and entertain a fan base where it doesn't matter how many college degrees you have or if you're a high school dropout. Right, we can all talk about the game. We can all talk about sports. We can all talk about Hall of Famers. which is why, again, having the good fortune of doing what we do is just an absolutely amazing thing.
Let's test out Steve Wyche's poker face.
Let's do it.
So we know that they've changed the way the Hall of Fame works now, right?
In what way?
In terms of the old days of knocking on the door and finding out in that moment. Do you know who the 5 are already?
I know who they are because they do knock on the door, but it is a different way. It's no longer the president of the Hall of Fame knocking on the doors of hotel rooms. It is current Hall of Famers knocking on the doors of the incoming class at their homes. It's something that started during COVID because they just didn't want to bring everybody to the Super Bowl to one venue. But over the past 3 years, or the past 2 years, this was the second year, Hall of Famers, for instance, last year, Ty Law, who played with the Patriots, notified Richard Seymour, knocked on his door at home, welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So last week I was with the crew as we went and did that. So I know all the deal.
So this is it. We were with the guy from St. Louis, Howard. What is his name?
Oh, Howard Balzer.
Howard Balzer. We were with him on Tuesday night.
Yeah, he's a selector.
And he's a selector, and we were chatting to him. And honestly, I think 5 different people came up to him and went, "You guys already know, right? Is Tory in? Is Tory in? Do we know if Tory's in?" Like, I just feel like his whole week's got to be hell because he's just got to be stony-faced and not give anything away and just be completely.
But that's because they used to vote the day before the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and it was announced that night. So there was only about a 2-hour window before that could leak. Now it's more like a 10-day to 2-week window.
Which is kind of amazing in a world where we've got guys like yourselves and the insiders, and in a world where that information could very easily get out into the world, into Twitter and everything else. Like, you put yourself in quite a difficult situation there of not having anybody find out.
Oh, I'm good. They're not finding out for me. That's the one thing. It's like, okay, I could be stupid with it. But no, I mean, you don't want to ruin the moment for these people. And you don't want to ruin the moment for their families or their teams or their teammates. It is a special and hallowed moment. Think about it. There have probably been at the pro level 30,000 plus people who have played, coached, or contributed to this game. If you include high school and collegiate level, that number's in the hundreds of thousands. There are 362 people in the Hall of Fame. That is rarefied air. So you want to allow them to treasure something that unique and that special. And by spilling it, honestly, what do you accomplish?
Maybe I'm old school. I really like the knock on the door in the hotel. I can see
these knocks again. These knocks are they're actually more meaningful because it's usually a teammate who's in the hall saying, "Oh man, I went through the war with this guy, and now I'm letting him know." And it's such a special connection. Nothing against the old way of knocking on doors in the hotel room. Remember, there were 10 guys who didn't get that knock, who are sitting in a hotel room with their families. Okay, now if they get that phone call, they're at least at home, around their families in a comfortable setting. And I think that's another kind of easier way for the news to be delivered because there's people whose lives are going to be changed forever on the positive, and there's people who's going to be have their feelings hurt. But again, they don't have to walk down a hallway in a hotel kind of sad about it.
Also, if you ever met the former president of the Hall of Fame, David Baker,
wonderful man,
wonderful man, great interview, so much charisma, so much character. But also, if he's knocking on my door at any time, day or night, I'm terrified. He is a huge man. He is
about 6'8".
He could
tipping the high 300s.
There's offensive tackles getting in the Hall of Fame who he will dwart.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Steve, we talk about the game all week, so let's talk about some of that other stuff. Some of that sundry you mentioned, Derek.
What?
A colleague of yours, there we go. Has he given you a tip? No, Derek. So
I keep a secret, member.
Let's just talk through some of these landing spots. Some where do you think these quarterbacks are going to end up? Do we think Derek Carr, the Saints, the camp situation confuses me how they're going to handle that? But is that feeling like that's well on the way?
It is. I've had that feeling for a while now because the Saints feel they've got a playoff caliber team. So going with a young quarterback right now with the way they're structured with, Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara, to get a veteran quarterback who can protect the ball. They don't need anything super flashy. Just get the ball to their playmakers, kind of like what Drew Brees did. Derek can be that guy. Now, they've got to figure out they're $60 million over the cap. And we know the Saints have been able to manipulate the salary cap like what the heck? How are they able to do this? So they have to figure that out. We have to figure out if it's going to be a trade or if it'll be free agency. And I don't think, I've said this all along, it will be a trade. I don't think Derek Carr wants to agree to whatever team he's going to give up draft picks that could weaken their roster to bring him in. And I don't think he wants to help the Raiders, get draft picks that could help fortify their team based on his departure.
What do you think about the Lamar Jackson situation?
Yeah.
It looks like they're potentially going to franchise tag him to kind of move it down the road. But realistically, is he going to accept that? Do you think that's going to affect the relationship too much going forward? What do you see the future for Lamar Jackson at this moment in time?
Yeah, well, I think they're going to franchise tag him just to make sure that nobody else can get their hands on him while they work out a deal. Look, I know the organization, some people in there who make the decisions, they love this man for the person he is, for the player he is, and for some of the history they feel that he can make being their quarterback. At the same time, he wants the Deshaun Watson contract, and that, based on it when you talk to, is the outlier, $230 million guaranteed, the whole deal. I don't think they necessarily want to guarantee the whole deal. So there's the clash. And I think it could get ugly because he has no agent to be a buffer. I mean, that's when people are telling you things that you may not want to hear. But at the same time, they've got such a strong working relationship there, and that organization has always operated with such class. I don't think it will get personal. So we'll see. A lot of people think it's going to be franchise tag and they trade him. I don't think he gets traded. I don't think that happens, again, just because I know how much he means to so many people in that building, in that city. Plus, they have to find a quarterback similar to him because they've built their whole roster to kind of play with a quarterback like him. So I think he ends up there, but it is really going to have to take, some needle moving on both sides to get that deal done.
And some relationship rebuilding as well, because, we heard speculation from inside the building about just how healthy he was or wasn't, whether or not he could have potentially played through the injury. As much as we talk about football as this brotherhood and the greatest team sport in the world, it's clearly there were people there who weren't happy with what happened this year, including Lamar himself. And so, we've got to become September a lovely harmonious group again.
Look, we've seen things a lot uglier than this get settled once a contract is taken care of. And for anybody, who second-guessed his injury, like, man, if he was under contract, he would have played. I think he's too much of a gamer. I think he loves playing too much. But you also can understand, after seeing what happened to some players, who are in a contract year and then all of a sudden get hurt and they don't get their money. So you get it, but I just think he loves his teammates and playing the game too much to let that be the overriding factor into him not returning. I just don't think he was healthy.
I think the two things that really fascinate me about him, we're going to end up not focusing on any of the other ones. So last one on this one, I think what Kirk Cousins did, getting franchise tag, and then getting a fully guaranteed deal off the back of it. You look at that and he's thinking, I control my future if I do that. And then how much does the Deshaun Watson deal now affect any of these deals for these young guys when they're saying, well, look, if this guy's getting fully guaranteed $200 million plus this kind of crazy money, we see NBA contracts, we see MLB contracts. Where's the love for us in this front?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you talk about NBA, MLB, those are all fully guaranteed. Remember, Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins are the only players to have fully guaranteed contracts all the way through, right? Everything else is you get a signing bonus or bonus money, and then if you get hurt, they can cut you and blah, blah, blah. You don't get what's scheduled to be the rest on your salary. The Deshaun Watson contract will have an impact. We're seeing it there. We saw it in some of the structure of the Kyler Murray deal last year, but he didn't get a fully guaranteed deal, but the money was insane. And the reason, and I'm so glad you brought up Kirk Cousins and the franchise tag, that's why these quarterback salaries are out of control. Because when he got tagged those 2 or 3 straight years in Washington, and people are like, this dude is getting $28 million a year and has never been a Pro Bowler like me, that's the baseline for my contract. So that's why you see Aaron Rodgers getting $50 million a year and things like that. So remember, Dak Prescott, before he signed his long-term deal, said he would play on continued franchise tags because the money would be perfect. He'd be set for life for one of those. So I don't think any player wants to play on a one-year deal with no security, knowing that they could get hurt. But if that's what it comes down to, the money is going to be about $45 million for Lamar to play on a franchise tag. So
it's not a bad amount of scratch, is it?
Yeah,
I'd take it. I'd take it.
I
would
just
take it.
I just don't see why every quarterback doesn't employ Mike McCartney presentation. I just don't see why everyone does that. He is unbelievable.
Steve, we're going on air live half an hour before the game on Sunday, and we're doing hits through the day and everything as well. You guys are going on air 8.5 hours before the game.
Baby. 8.5 hours. Stamina, baby. We do it all the time.
So for our listeners, obviously at 11 p.m. we want you to tune in to us. But for the 8 hours before that, Game
baby.
Pass, NFL Network, get on it. Steve's going to be involved. Thank you so much for your time, Steve. Have a great rest
Always
of your week.
Always great, man. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.